Welcome to Fake Presidents, a real podcast about, well, you know.
Each episode will take a deep dive into a fictional American president from pop culture to see just how much fiction there really is. I'm Eric Buckman, a former political consultant turned TV writer.
And I'm Ben Oren, a former journalist, sometimes speechwriter, and all-the-time TV producer.
And for this week's episode, I was going to say we're going to go do something we haven't done before. We're going to do the Cold War in space. But I just realized...
But we did that. We did like multiple episodes.
Yeah, that's for all mankind.
For all mankind.
Yeah, we've done that many times now. No, but we are expanding our horizons a bit. You might say we're entering our own undiscovered country. Because one of the hallmarks of this podcast is we really do stick to fictional American presidents. Presidents of America, the United
States. USA. I'm imagining our thousands of podcast listeners now just erupting across not just the United States, Eric, but the world, as we know from looking at... There's one person in Belgium, USA. USA.
You know, those expats out there.
We don't know if they're expats. They could just be really into American culture, and we're their gateway. We're the gateway drug. We're that little sniff. Yeah. They take up the old nostril hole. Yeah. To give them a little high, a little kick in the crevices.
Star Trek, the future? A Federation president? You're American presidents. What's going on there? You didn't do Issa Rae and Barbie.
That's the one you keep coming back to.
Well, no, because look, there's a pink house in the Supreme Court. Like, they make it clear she is a president, but president of Barbie Land.
Not of America. That wasn't of the United States.
So why does this count? Because I think for movies set in the future, if the president's jurisdiction covers what is geographically the United States as we know it, then that's technically a president of the U.S.
Eric, did you stretch before going on that mental gymnastics route to get us to justify why we're doing it? Eric, it's our podcast. We could do what we want, when we want, how we want. Our viewers understand that we're mavericks, and we do the things we could say one thing and do another, and that's okay. The people who pay good money for us on Patreon, and the people who have given us money to give to the J6 funds, and trust me, it's all gone to J6. None of it has gone to any self-help, self-realization techniques. None of that. All the money has gone to help those people in prison. Look, Eric, I don't know. We don't have the full breakdown of who our listeners are, so we got to play it both ways. Yeah. And that'll go in our MAGA episodes that only go out to our MAGA audience.
By J6, I assume you mean your brother-in-law, Johnny Six, who does the music for
Johnny Six. Yes, Johnny Six. Yeah. Who on January 6th, a couple of years ago, went to D.C. and busted into the Capitol. Yeah. Took a dump in AOC's one of her drawers at her desk.
This is where I have to, for any new listeners out there, I have to remind you all that Ben has a very active imagination. But no, I do think we want to open the door a little bit, but not too much. If we open the door too much, like, say, the Capitol doors on January 6th, people might come rushing in we don't want in, giving us their thoughts that we don't want to hear, asking us to do movies we can't possibly do, or TV shows and podcasts and radios. So we have to have some rules, some limits, because if anything, we are a rule of law podcast. We are not above the law, much like the president in this movie, who is a president of the Federation of Planets, which encompasses Earth, which encompasses the United States, which is why we can do this movie in the same way we might one day do, say, The Fifth Element with the president of Earth.
But definitely we'll never do Barbie.
We won't do Barbie. That's clearly a side land that runs parallel and is separate from the mainland, America, United States. It's Barbie Land.
All those in favor of letting Barbie Land be Barbie Land, say aye.
We're doing Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which I should say is my favorite Star Trek movie of all the ones that have been made.
Yeah, including like all the parenthetical ones, the ones on the side, the spin-offs, the reboots.
Well, I didn't say all the series. But of all the movies, of all the theatrical release movies, I really do like the way it incorporated. Well, we'll get into it, but basically, let's just say real-world politics into this fictional future narrative, into the world of Star Trek. And we shall get into it right after this.
My name is Andrew Shepard, and I am the president.
You would have thought that you were just throwing to a commercial, but it was just a bumper. I'm assuming a bumper went in between.
It might be funnier if we sleep
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe in the future, where Star Trek takes place, we'll have commercials.
Yeah.
Those moments.
No ads. Yeah, we're doing Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, directed by Nicholas Meyer, who did Star Trek 2, wrote and directed that. He was a co-writer of this, but really was a driving creative force, both on paper and behind the camera for this one. He brings all the Shakespearean elements. He brings to it the love of Sherlock Holmes. He brings to it even a little bit of J.M. Barrie, a little Peter Pan.
It was very Agatha Christie also.
Yes. Yeah.
Clue, the board game, not the movie nor the musical, the board game.
Yeah. The Clue, the board game, could use some moon boots and phaser pistols.
Wait, there has to be a Star Trek Clue board game, right? Didn't
would
do that with Monopoly
think.
and all that? That's
Monopoly,
a collector's item.
Again, we're getting into, just like we had Hasbro last episode, we're getting into territory which I know way too much about the international IP rights associated with most board games. Monopoly is this weird thing where there are loopholes for doing your own versions of unofficial, unlicensed opolies.
Okay, Opoly.
But Clue is not nearly as, let's just say,
litigious.
unregulated. But yeah, it stars all the cast of the original Star Trek.
Oh, are we going to? We didn't even talk about. I mean, I don't know how much there is to talk about. You know, it was directed by Nicholas Meyer. Wrote the screenplay with Denny Martin Finn, obviously.
With a story by Leonard Nimoy, among others.
Lawrence Connor and Mark Rosenthal.
Apparently, this is the case where Star Trek V was not a huge hit.
Which one was
creatively
that?
Disappointing. That's the one where they find God at the center of the galaxy, and he wants a starship. And it's generally considered a nadir of the Star Trek film canon.
Wait, do they have to fight God? Like, what do you mean they found God?
They get drawn to the center of the galaxy because Spock's half-brother is leader of a cult, a space cult.
Wait, why is it a space cult?
Because
it's in space?
He's in space, yeah.
So wouldn't every cult out just be space cults? They're not looking to the stars for anything. Like, I would think a space cult, like on Earth, like the people with the comet.
That's
the
like
comet
Heaven's
and
Gate.
the Heaven's Gate. That's a space cult.
Well, that's an Earth-based looking up cult, whereas
Okay.
whereas Spock's half-brother, they steal a starship, basically. You know,
They hotwire one.
Yeah, they steal the Enterprise. But no, that one was directed by William Shatner. It didn't do too great. And so apparently Paramount went back to Leonard Nimoy and said, hey, you did Star Trek 4. That did a lot better than Star Trek 5. So we want to go back to you.
They did they did a really good job of pitting like iconic cast members against each other.
Yeah. Well, and Nimoy was like, wait a second. If you come back to me, we might have a really angry William Shatner. I don't want to work with a really angry William Shatner. So why don't we go to Nicholas Meyer, who did Star Trek 2, which was also very well received, and bring him in. So even though...
I know that one. That's The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, Wrath of Khan. So even though Nimoy was kind of getting this ball rolling and he gets a story by credit, it was really Nicholas Meyer and his writing partner on this movie who really brought together the whole Cold War elements. And I have to also wonder, this is Paramount. Paramount, the year before, had just released The Hunt for October. So I have to think that Paramount's thinking, wait a second, Cold War subs, Cold War spaceships, we have something going here. Let's Tom Clancy-ize this franchise. And even though I don't think Nicholas Meyer would ever compare himself to Tom Clancy, they have very different writing styles, although they're both novelists. From the studio's point of view, I think they were more than happy to go back to that well.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is it's so Hunt for October. The Klingons, who are the Russians, even have a super silence submarine in this one too.
And they're also red. Some of them are red.
And some of them are with purple blood. But yes, no, this is the Cold War in space. It's very clear that you have the Klingons are the Russians, the Americans are the Federation. The destruction practice is Chernobyl. Chancellor Gorkon, he's like a Gorbachev character. So that leaves the president of the Federation.
Wait, should we go through the characters first? You're saying Gorkins and all this stuff, and I saw the movie, and
I'll just lay in the
I would need a
groundwork.
refresher. Just laying the groundwork.
But I'm just showing how all the elements are there for this to be a true parallel to what was going on in the world of 1991.
All of it already happened in 1990. The Cold War was over.
Oh, the late 80s. They were bringing that up. They were a couple years behind, but no. But the question is, though, all these elements line up. You would think that, does this Federation president therefore line up to, say, Ronald Reagan or George H.W. Bush? And I think that's what we're now going to decide.
In a little bit.
After these messages.
After this commercial break.
How dare you come into this office and bark at me like some little junkyard dog? I am the President of the United States.
Okay, and we're back. New listeners would be very confused.
But it's our old listeners listening from the detention facilities, federal prisons. They're the ones who we do this for.
Most of them are out by now.
By now, yeah.
Most of them only got like 9-month sentences. Anyway, the cast. It is the cast of the original series. You got your William Shatner, your Leonard Nimoy, your Nichelle Nichols, James
Doohan, DeForest Kelley. Wait, here on Wikipedia, you know how much money he got paid for this movie, DeForest Kelley?
Well, I know they all took pay cuts because they had to keep the budget down for back.
Not DeForest. I don't know about DeForest Kelley. DeForest Kelley got $1 million. He got $1 million American dollars.
They got him
to do this movie.
Yeah. So the rest of them are like, give us some back end. He's like, no, pay me up front.
Pay me up front. I know what happened with the last one.
Yeah. And then joining them for this last go around of the original cast in their own movie dedicated solely to them are David Warner playing Chancellor Gorkon of the Klingon Empire. You've got Kim Cattrall playing Lieutenant Valeris.
Look, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Wikipedia is a wealth of information. And do you know what Kim Cattrall did on the set, Eric?
Yeah. She showed up to take some naughty pictures with her photographer off hours and got kicked off.
Yes, with just the ears on. She did nudies on set.
Oh,
with the ears.
So Samantha. Right, she's Samantha, right?
And then, she's such a Samantha. And then Nimoy personally ripped up several of the photographs.
The thing is, that can only happen through digital.
Leonard Nimoy was like, I'm going to rip these up personally over here in the bathroom for about 15 to 27 minutes. And the sounds you're hearing are definitely me ripping photographs.
Yeah, he was still mic'd up. You also have Christopher Plummer as General Chang.
I mean, he's an icon, Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, this is old Christopher Plummer in 1991. And he's still making movies.
I mean, I saw Christopher Plummer in the opening credits, and then when I saw him as the character, as a Klingon, with all the face paint, I was like, they must have paid him so much. He must have thought he was getting like Marlon Brando, Superman money or something, right? I mean, like,
you think? I wouldn't say he's Marlon Brando. I think
Marlon Brando, but in his mind, he's like, if I'm doing this shit like 10 years after Marlon Brando did that shit.
I don't think he thought he was doing shit. I mean, it's a Nicholas Meyer script. It's Star Trek. By this point,
he's dressed up like an alien. He's painted.
He's got that awesome eye patch like bolted on. But past Klingons in the movies, you've had Christopher Lloyd. It's not like movie stars haven't stepped in to play these roles. This is not camp.
Yeah, but that's where you get paid.
Yeah, and then of course you have playing the president, Kurtwood Smith, who, speaking of villainous characters, as of the making of this, was probably most famous as being the bad guy in RoboCop.
Yeah, before he was Red. He was Red.
Yes, that 70s show.
Yeah,
and now also that 90s show.
He's Red for multiple decades, centuries.
Oh yeah,
millennium. Anyway, well, also Amon is in it.
Oh,
that's
Amon,
shape-shifting.
yes.
And Christian Slater shows up.
That's just it. That's what I'm saying about Christopher Plummer. Like, there are enough true Star Trek fans in Hollywood, even among actors, that it's actually not that hard to get them in your movie if you
Yeah, but I feel like mainly they want to just put on like a Starfleet uniform, not spend 4 hours in makeup.
Yeah, but he gets to deliver lines of Shakespeare.
Literally Shakespeare. It is literal Shakespeare. It's not like the lines. It's not like the script is. It's Shakespearean, but the quality isn't Shakespeare. He's delivering actual lines of Shakespeare.
Cry havoc and let Let slip the dogs of war.
And then we also have an Admiral Cartwright, who's an important figure. Not a very big figure, but does play into the plot quite a bit. And he's played by...
Brock Peters.
Yes, legendary Brock Peters.
How? Because I'm the goddamn president of the United States of America.
We could do the plot really quickly here.
Really, really fast.
We'll just get us to the presidential scenes.
Yeah, I wouldn't even get too deep into the plot because it's kind of convoluted.
You think so? It's pretty straightforward. Praxis blows up.
I mean, the plan, the plan, like the evil plan is like a convoluted plan.
Oh, the bad guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I watched the director's cut, which is even more
Wait a
convoluted.
second. You watched the director's cut for this one?
Well, it's on Max, too.
I watched it on Max.
Yeah, if you go to extras, you have what looks like a trailer. I hit it thinking it was a trailer. It's the whole movie again, 4 minutes longer.
Wait, did Max gives you director's cuts for certain
It doesn't
movies?
list it as a director's cut. It just, under extras, has a thumbnail of the movie, and it says Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. I just assumed it was a trailer. Like, oh, I want to see how they market this movie in 91. I clicked on it, and it said an hour and 54 minutes, which is 4 minutes longer than the version I had just watched. Here's what's interesting, though. You know what the 4 minutes mostly consists of? A scene with the fake presidents.
Oh, interesting.
And it also goes into a little more with the bad guy plot.
Not Leonard Nimoy ripping up, just the sound of him ripping up the photograph of a naked Kim
everyone
Cattrall.
just
Ripping up, as
standing
I'm doing air quotes here, in the bathroom, not knowing that he's mic'd.
Fascinating.
Anyway, what was I saying? The plot, super simple. You have this moon of the Klingon Empire that blows up. It turns out to be the moon that produces like almost all their energy. And what we learn is that the moon blew up due to overmining and insufficient safety precautions. And that the moon's decimation means that the deadly pollution of their ozone, and that they will have depleted their supply of oxygen in 50 Earth years. And due to their enormous military budget, the Klingon Empire does not have the resources with which to combat this catastrophe.
I'm only thinking about Spaceballs right now.
Oh, they're running out of air?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Praxis is gone, the Klingons are dying, and it's an opportunity for many in the Federation to finally extend an olive branch to the Klingons to say, hey, let us help you, and we maybe can work together in the future. And they're going to have a big peace summit, and it's all being organized by Spock's dad, Ambassador Sarek. The Federation president seems behind it. A lot of people are behind it, but you know who's not behind it, Ben?
James T. Kirk.
There is an historic opportunity here.
Don't believe them. Don't trust them.
They are dying.
Let them die.
Yeah, no, his attitude is let them die, which you have not seen all the movies. I do, so I knew.
But I know he has a very basic photograph of his child. The photograph looks more like a headshot that they got from the actor
of his
to
son
play it.
from Star Trek 2 and 3.
Yeah.
He meets in 2, dies in 3.
Wait, he didn't know that he had a son?
No, Carol Marcus, who was an early lover of him decades earlier, apparently had the kid and never told William Shatner, never told Kirk. I mean, I'm sure Shatner didn't know either.
I'm sure Shatner did have a child with her also.
Yeah, but never told Kirk. And so Kirk is just discovering that news when he meets them for the first time.
So all he has is
in
this
Star Trek
random
2.
photo. Where did he even get the photo from? Were they taking?
It's the future.
They're taking little pictures in the future. So they're taking little pictures on their little disposable cameras, little Polaroids in the year 2300 and whatever. Whatever futurists they hired did not do a good job of putting out there what photographs would be like in the future.
Yeah, wait till we get to the scene from the director's cut where a big presentation is being made to the president on paper flipboard that looked like it was like a presentation to look at at Kinko's. But anyway,
Just remember, this movie came out the same year that T2 came out. T2 was like a game changer.
that movie had 3 times the budget of this one. Because of Star Trek V, they were on a very short leash.
Fucking Shatner.
So anyway, Klingons are on the ropes. Kirk's not a big fan. Kirk winds up being charged with escorting the Klingon Chancellor to a peace summit with the Federation presidents.
Little midnight run.
Yeah, and here's where we get one of our first, true political drops, political references. Because Kirk's like, why me? And what does Spock tell him?
There's an old Vulcan proverb. Only Nixon could go to China.
So by picking someone like Kirk, who is pretty famous at this point for his hatred of and distrust of Klingons.
An anti-Klingite.
Yeah, to give him a pivotal role in all this, it might actually convince some people that the Federation is serious in some way.
But he's definitely had sex with Klingons, right?
That might be the one species he has not had.
Really?
Sex with. Yeah.
That's shocking. Because he had sex with like every species of alien out there.
Oh, yeah, he did. So anyway, so that's the setup. Kirk is leading the Enterprise crew to escort the Klingons, led by Chancellor Gorkon, to this peace summit. They have this big dinner, which...
I would say this long dinner felt...
I like this dinner because I like the fact that no one in the original cast had any issues with playing complete bigots, which is a big problem for Gene Roddenberry, apparently. He's like, no, this is an enlightened future. There'd be no bigotry and prejudice. And Nicholas Meyer's like, we can... A little bit. And so they're really playing, genuine distrust of the entire Klingon species. I love the fact that they don't just play coy with the Shakespearean references. They make sure that we know that the Klingons are basically owning Shakespeare as their own.
You have not experienced Shakespeare until you have read him in the original Klingon.
Which is kind of interesting because they also are distrustful of the Federation's peace summit because they're worried that by
those
joining
kinds of
the
people,
Federation...
Those kinds of people want to take everything.
Well, actually, they're worried that by joining the Federation, they might be losing their own culture and identity. Meanwhile, they're totally, taking Shakespeare as their own. Anyway, they get drunk, and it ends with the Klingons going back to their ship and the crew of the Enterprise all retreating to their rooms to go sleep off their hangovers when what happens, Ben?
There's an attack.
The Klingon ship gets hit by torpedoes that seem to come from the Enterprise, the photon torpedoes. And then while the ship is damaged and has their gravity totally disrupted, you have it appears to be Federation members beaming onto the Klingon ship with anti-gravity boots and making their way to the ship, shooting everybody they encounter.
Pew-pewing. They're pew-pewing everybody. They're very proud of the effects.
This is ILM, who also did T2. They're doing the space blood, which
I think they got their interns on this account.
You might have been distracted by the fact that the space blood really clearly did look very CG-ish, but the way they actually physically pulls off the zero G-ness of it all, they hid those wires very well.
If you're not doing it in the Vomit Comet, I'm not interested.
Well, this was before Apollo 13. I mean, in the history of the Federation, it's after Apollo 13.
Yes.
But in the history of cinema, it was 3 years before Apollo 13. But no, they make their way to basically assassinate Chancellor Gorkon, turning him from a Gorbachev figure into an Abraham Lincoln, so to speak. And so Kirk and McCoy, they beam onto the ship in order to try to save the Chancellor, or at least figure out what's going on.
Be a help. Yeah,
figure out the Chancellor's been shot. McCoy doesn't know Klingon anatomy, tries to save him. You get the second time.
He like looked into Klingon. He's like, I don't know what, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
No, but he's full on doing like ER, Chicago Hope, 90s medical TV show type heroics, jumping on the patient, slamming on him with his fists, trying to restart the heart or hearts.
Maybe that wasn't even his heart up there. We learn later in this movie that aliens the location of their body parts aren't the same as human beings.
That is correct. Some pee out of their kneecaps. And so the Chancellor dies, and Kirk and McCoy are immediately arrested because it's believed by the Klingons that they were behind the whole thing, which takes us to our first scene in not the Oval Office. It's pretty standard rectangular office, but we get to meet the president, Kurtwood Smith, and he's getting his ass handed to him by the Klingon ambassador. He's telling him how Gorkon died en route to meet with you, Mr. President. Kirk and McCoy boarded the Klingon vessel on their own free will. Like, we have not kidnapped anybody. They came to us. We arrested them, and there's nothing you can do about it because we are simply abiding by the very international law that you yourself claim to respect. The president says that he's ordered a full-scale investigation.
Wait, you know why Kurtwood Smith character does fit into the pantheon of fake presidents?
Why?
He doesn't have a name.
He's just the Federation president.
He's just a Federation president.
But what's interesting, the president, he wants to save Kirk and McCoy.
Well, should we say what he looks? Should we say what he is? Because
Okay.
we're saying the Federation president, but he's
That's
not.
correct.
He's not a human. He's not going to look like a human being.
What does he look like, Ben?
Is he a Romulan? What
No,
is he?
he's not a Romulan.
You're like, Ben, you stupid, you ignorant slut.
First off, he has like a Fu Manchu.
Yes, he does. He's red.
He's got like reddish, kind of almost purplish skin.
He's got a mane that's also receding on top, but it's like a full-on like mane.
Okay, according to Memory Alpha, which is like the official Wikipedia for all things Star Trek, Kurtwood Smith, President of the Federation. Oh, he's Efrosian. And also, this is interesting, he was supposed to be blind, hence the tiny glasses.
He's supposed to be blind?
Yeah, I don't think that detail stuck. So, I mean, he's got the Fu Manchu, he's got the long blonde mane, he's got the very
Is it
pronounced eyebrows, white hair.
Yeah, whitish. The
got
The Fu Manchu is impressive because I always thought Fu Manchus just came from the mustache area. But this Fu Manchu is from the mustache, but also it's like the bottom goatee also grown out.
From the chin, too.
Yeah, that's like pro Fu Manchu. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's got good groomers. So this president, everyone's making the case that as much as Mr. President, you want to get Kirk and McCoy back, the rules of international law state that you must let the Klingons hold their own trial. To which the president says,
"This president is not above the law."
and he allows the Klingons to proceed. And I thought that was a very striking line, having a president clearly state that they are law-abiding, that they are not above the law. Not below it.
Not adjacent to it.
Not parallel to it. Anyway, we then get a whole rigged trial where Kirk and McCoy are sent to a Russian gulag. Klingon gulag.
It's very Siberian.
But here's where we get more politics, though. Because in the middle of the scene, did you pick up on the Adlai Stevenson reference?
No, give it to me.
That's when Chang yells at Kirk.
Don't wait for the translation! Answer me now!
That's directly from during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Adlai Stevenson, is addressing the UN Security Council, and he says to Ambassador Zorin of Russia, and if there's ever a Star Trek name waiting to be used, it's Ambassador Zorin. He says anything, do not wait for the translation, answer the question about the existence of missiles in Cuba. Anyway, during the trial, we see that the president is watching it from his office.
Yeah,
it's televised. It's the OJ trial.
It's the OJ,
Before
the trial of the century. Trial of the millennium?
At the moment in which Kirk's secret diaries, where she's talking about how much he effing, it's basically the Mark Furman tapes.
Yeah.
How much he hates Klingons. He hates them. That's the moment that
He detailed graphically what he would do if he could ever just get onto a ship full of floating Klingons.
Yes, we do see the president quite literally throwing in the towel at that moment because he knows that the trial's over. And it is. This is when we also get the Christian Slater scene coming up. He's there to wake up Captain Sulu of the USS Excelsior to share some news with them. Basically,
It was like the equivalent of a Twitter update.
Who doesn't want to get their Twitter updates from Christian Slater? And which you have to add, people might thinking, well, he's a young Christian Slater. Maybe he's not famous yet. No.
No, he's totally famous at this point.
Yeah, very famous. The next time we see the president's not till the end of the movie. What goes on between then and now is Kirk and McCoy. They do escape from the gulag. They get rescued by Spock, who's been leading the Enterprise.
I mean, they escape, but it's like a whole plan for them to escape, to make it look like they escaped.
Well, here's what made sense to me. It's like, okay, they figure out pretty quickly that they're patsies, and as patsies, they're going to be killed. They're loose ends that are hanging out there. And so the plan is to help them escape just enough so that they could be both killed while trying to escape versus having two separate accidents for Kirk and McCoy to suspiciously kill them while they're working in this Klingon mine. So that made sense to me, maybe not to you, but regardless...
You tell me accidents don't happen in a mine? Come on.
They're just minors. But regardless, Iman, shapeshifter, after kissing Kirk as attractive Iman, winds up turning into both a large brutish alien figure and also a young child, which makes Kirk look equally disturbed in each case. He's like, which one did I just make out with? I don't know if I like either of them.
Yeah, what is your original shape?
But you also get the fun scene where she becomes Kirk herself. And so you get Kirk calling out Kirk's own narcissism.
Yeah.
Which Shatner was game for and for fighting with himself, which is not an easy thing to film, before they have truly rescued.
To have two out of shape 50-year-olds slap fighting on a set. Yeah.
Look, it's Kirk. Fight Club. Who does Edward Norton say he wants to fight more than anyone else in the whole world?
Shatner.
So it doesn't matter how out of shape he is. He's still a legend. And so basically, they both get rescued before the plane can finally finish them off. And I thought it was an amusing bit, and that they're actually going to be told everything, and that's when they get beamed up. And
I mean, it's even called out from the guy who's about to give the expositional speech.
Yeah.
He's like, typically I wouldn't do this, but because the two of you are going to die very shortly, I will tell you everything.
And then he gets beamed up.
Yeah.
I like that moment. And so now you have a race to get to the summit before another assassination attempt can go on. They figure out that the inside person on the Enterprise who was behind making it look like they were firing torpedoes is none other than
Kim Cattrall.
Kim Cattrall. Unfortunately, she will not tell the rest of the plan or the conspirators. So he has to do, and this is actually
It's a super mind meld.
Super mind meld against her will, no consent.
A mega mind meld.
It does border on 24 levels of torture. By 24, I mean the TV show 24. And it's done by Spock, who makes her scream in agony while violating her memories. Not cool, Spock. But it works, and they do wind up.
Are you Me Tooing Spock?
Anyway, they get just enough information to race to the summits in order to. And by the way, we're skipping over all the Star Trek stuff in the middle because it's plotty and Sherlock Holmesy, and I thought fun, and I like it all, but it's not political, so we'll just gloss over it. They race to the summit and basically in the line of fire things just in time to save the president from an assassin after, of course, they destroyed the Red October in space. The Space October.
Yeah.
The Space Red October. The Red Space October. The Spocktober. No, that's different.
Spocktober.
Yeah. But we do get some lines from the president while this is going on to help build tension. We see the president. He takes to the podium to first say...
Let us redefine progress to mean that just because we can do a thing, it does not necessarily follow that we must do that thing.
And then you get the chancellor's daughter speaking, and then the president starts speaking again, and he's actually getting very wonky about the timeline of the evacuation. It's like, so in the first decade, in the first 50 years, we're focusing on an evacuation of the Kronos, blah, blah, blah.
The total evacuation of Kronos has been calculated within the 50 Earth-year time span. Phase 1, preparation for evacuation.
And then we get the assassination raising the phaser rifle when Kirk and crew beam down just in time to quite literally take the bullet. Okay, not literally at all. To quite figuratively take the phaser beam.
Save the day.
Yeah, save the day. Do what Clint Eastwood would just do 2 years later. And
let's go to commercial.
That's the end of the movie.
Get off my plane.
So, yeah, after going from Shakespeare to Sherlock Holmes, it ends on a line from Peter Pan. With Kirk and crew deciding to do one last trip.
I want a crow.
No, it's about the second star to the left, straight until morning, that thing. There is the deleted scene, which I have to mention only because it is straight out of a Tom Clancy movie. Yeah. It's the president getting briefed on how the military can go in there and extract Kirk and McCoy out of Klingon hands, to which the president says, no, we can't do that. And when someone says, one of the military men, that Kirk and McCoy, these men, they have literally saved the planet. He uses the word literally, exactly how it's intended to be used. Specifically, they're referring to the events of Star Trek IV. Oh. These men have literally saved the planet, to which the president replies, and now they're going to save it again by standing trial. And of course, the reason why that scene exists in the director's cut is because it shows Colonel West, played by Rene Auberjois, from Benson, later from Deep Space Nine. He's playing the colonel who's presenting this rescue plan, and the president doesn't want to do it because he's like, if we send troops in there, it could start a war. And, and Colonel West, he just seems like he's like this guy who's like, well, I don't care. I want to rescue them.
Yeah.
I'll take that risk.
We're already at war.
But then at the end of the movie, you might not have noticed this, Ben, but at the very end of the movie, there's a wide shot where you get to see the Klingon assassin, his body on the ground.
No, I remember his body being on the ground.
Yeah, it's a wide shot, and you'll see red blood. And in the theatrical cut, it gets it's not even mentioned or commented upon. You wouldn't even notice it.
Wait, why does he have red? Why does he have red blood?
He has red blood because what you'll see in the director's cut is they Scooby-Doo his face off, and it's Rene Auberjois. It's Colonel West. So he was working with Kim Cattrall, with Admiral Cartwright, with General Chang. They were all working together. In a weird way, these people who wanted to stop the peace summit because they didn't believe Klingons and
get along with other people
and Federation could work together. They're working together.
They did a pretty good job. It was pretty good conspiracy.
But anyway, so that's the plot. That's the movie. Let's talk president.
Sure.
So what do we know about this guy?
What do we know? We know that he's neither human nor Klingon nor Vulcan.
Got very interesting facial hair. We know that his office is actually in Paris.
Wait a second. We don't know that.
If you look out the window, you'll see an Eiffel Tower.
There's more than one Eiffel Tower.
You're right. He could be in Las Vegas. Something I know that you don't know is that in Star Trek lore, there was World War III. Some whole cities got wiped out.
Fuck you, Eric.
What?
How'd you know I didn't fucking know that? You didn't let me even answer the question.
You're the one who says you.
You can only not like these things by experiencing them.
Okay, sorry. As we all know, Ben, in the lore of Star Trek, there was a World War III.
There was,
and many cities were wiped out.
There was a World War III,
and there's two cities. That you see frequently pop up.
Yes,
in movies and TV shows. San Francisco
and Paris.
Because
see, we agree with all this. We both know the same things. That's why we talk at the same.
Of course.
Yeah.
So San Francisco had a Starfleet. Looks like Paris is the head of the Federation. At least that's how I'll interpret it based on this movie. And what?
So wait, Paris and San Francisco had Starfleets? Do Republicans know this? Are they aware of the importance of San Francisco and Paris in canon?
What's interesting is in Strange New Worlds, which is one of the newer TV series on Paramount Plus, is in the series premiere. We actually do get to see some footage from Federation history showing some Earth turmoil that led to World War III. And they include footage from January 6th, 2021, to bring back and to incorporate all our audience members who we're still addressing who are currently in jail. Star Trek Season.
Soon to be out on Goodish Behavior.
They know how important you are.
/ out because of... For all we know, people are listening to this in December. A lot of sentences might be commuted.
I'm sure in various novelizations they made clear maybe what other cities have survived and been destroyed. I mean, I'm not saying the Earth is an apocalyptic mess. Like there probably is a New York City and there is an Orlando. Actually, we know there's an Orlando because
that's how you know that. That's how you always know whether it's like a dystopia or the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Or the apocalypse has happened. You look at the map and you're like, oh, Orlando's still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess obviously like if it's around, everything's
Well,
okay.
we know Orlando's there because in the latter episodes of Star Trek Picard, we do know that Riker and Troy are planning a vacation. And one of them really wants to go to Orlando. But Earth is not an apocalyptic hellscape. Any cities destroyed World War III have since been rebuilt because the Earth at this point is a post-scarcity future. They have replicators. They have transporters. Like the production and the transportation of goods and services is not an issue. There's nothing scarce in this planet that can't be made. So in many ways, some people call it a communist utopia. I wouldn't go that far. We definitely know that there's still some forms of currency in existence, some substances that can't be easily replicated, like gold-pressed latinum. We also know here on Earth that people still run businesses and restaurants and wineries.
You said gold-pressed?
Gold-pressed latinum, I believe, is what they use in Deep Space
Okay,
Nine.
yeah. No, you're right.
Oh, you're just checking? Okay.
I'm just checking. No,
Thank you, Ben.
You got it right. I thought you said something else, but then it's like, oh, no. It's gold-pressed latinum.
It's gambled with at the Deep Space Nine in that space
station.
casino.
You break that out? Dude, you get comped at the casino.
You would like Deep Space Nine.
They bring you out that blue rum drink.
I really would have thought you'd have taken more to this because this is a very standalone movie. This Star Trek movie, it requires almost no knowledge of anything before or after it. It tells its own story.
To be fair, I feel like I had almost no knowledge after it.
Oh my goodness. All our new fans coming to us from any other Star Trek podcast because they want to hear something Star Trek-y are like, what's going on? Look, people like what they like. It's not Ben's thing. It's more my thing. That's why we don't always agree on stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a world where presumably this newer and more enlightened human race, less infighting, all their prejudice is not inward amongst each other. It's outward towards aliens.
Yeah.
Or specifically Klingons.
Mainly Klingons.
So in terms of political party...
To be fair, it still feels like it's okay to just fucking hate Klingons.
But that's one of the things I also like about the movie is you have all these cast members who aren't afraid to show a really ugly side of themselves in order to make a greater point about how old people are the least likely to have tolerant views towards people different from them.
No, with Shatner, I'm like, the shit that guy says.
William Shatner stars in Bleep My Dad Says, CBS Thursdays this fall.
But that's one of the key points. Like, I believe it's, even Kirk says it many times, that he believes it's his generation that is the most resistant and how this is going to be the hardest for them to move on from. I was going to say it's a very okay boomer movie with all these boomers resistant to change, except these actually are not boomers.
They're a little older than boomers.
Yeah, boomers started in 1945. Most of these cast members were born in like the 1930s. So, okay, Silent Generation. Yeah, there's another ring to it.
No.
And you know what came before Silent Generation?
What?
The Greatest Generation.
The Greatest Generation, yeah.
Yeah. It goes, going back in time, Boomer, Silent, Greatest Generation. Even though members of the Silent Generation were technically old enough to also fight in World War II, they don't get credit for it?
Well, the ones who were like lied about their age at 14 so that they could kill some Nazis, they get the great. They're not silent.
This is a presidential favor.
So political party, is that even something we can go to? Is there anything we can...
No, I mean, he skews, the president of the Federation skews a bit more liberal.
Yeah.
I mean, if he were to be in a political party, seems to be a bit more Dem.
What about the whole Reagan thing? Because of all the parallels to the 80s and the actual Cold War, is there any actual Reagan or George H.W. Bush in this guy?
I mean, this was made before Kuwait, so it's hard to even like look at him as the wimp moniker.
Yeah.
That was attached to George H.W. No, not really.
No, well, his thing is for the first like 2.5 years of his presidency, he was considered a bit of a waffler, a bit of a wonk. He couldn't really overly commit to things.
He didn't want to be prudent. Didn't want to be prudent at this juncture.
Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
I can't believe I'm losing to this guy.
I mean, isn't he more like Jimmy Carter?
He's very Carter-esque.
There's a situation where people were, that he knows that people on his side are being framed for something or something doesn't smell right, yet he doesn't do anything.
He's very Carter-esque in that you basically have these hostages being held by an enemy and members of his own government are undermining him to work back channels in order to specifically make him look bad, which was... That happened to Carter.
Did you know that Carter, I mean, that wasn't even Carter's first hostage situation when he was in office? Did you know about the hostage situation at B'nai B'rith in 1977?
No, tell me about it.
This is crazy. This story is insane. This dude basically wanted to be the American caliph and wanted to establish some sort of caliphate in America. And he was an enemy of Nation of Islam.
Okay.
He was like in Nation of Islam in the 60s and didn't get along with the higher ups there, left, started his own sect. And he needed, Nation of Islam had Muhammad Ali. He needed a name to help him and to legitimize him and also finance him. And so who was that person? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Really?
Financed him, bought him a house in D.C. where he lived with his wives. Then Nation of Islam sent
you mean
Nation of
airplanes? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Exactly. Airplanes, Kareem
the
Abdul-Jabbar.
Actor?
The actor.
The guy who only plays in the playoffs?
Yes.
He only gives it all in the playoffs?
My dad says. But buys his house. Nation of Islam sends a hit squad to kill him. He's not home when it happens. Winds up like killing half of his family.
To kill the caliphate or kill Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Kill the caliphate.
Okay.
And at the same time, this other dude, this producer.
Okay.
And there's people who want to shut it down.
Yes, that's kind of verboten.
So this is all happening at the same time. The day the movie opens in 1977, this dude, I forget his name, but the caliph, he leads essentially a siege in D.C., takes over B'nai B'rith headquarters, takes over this mosque, and takes over one other place. And this is all happening blocks from the White House. And you know what Jimmy Carter fucking does? He's like, we'll let the police handle it.
And do they?
People died that day. I mean, Marion Barry got shot that day.
Oh, yeah.
Everything about this story is nuts. American Caliph is the name of the book, if anybody wants to check it out.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm just pulling it up. It's happened in March 1977. So about 2 months before Star Wars would come out. The gunmen were led by Hamas Abdul Khalis. Which is interesting because in Klingon mythology, Kalis is their Jesus-like figure.
That's why I brought it up, Eric.
So, in your opinion, did Jimmy Carter do the right thing or the wrong thing?
Oh, the wrong thing. He abdicated leadership.
And he allowed it to become a police matter.
Yeah.
Well, that's what this president does. He abdicates his power to other people.
Let's see how it plays out.
So, typically, the next thing we do after we talk about the president a bit, we'll talk about what does this movie say about the year it was made, 1991. And this is actually an easy one. I think it's basically giving you a blueprint for how they think the end of the Cold War and the 90s should go from there. What a partnership between Russia and America should look like via this parable in space. What's interesting is how much I think it hints at things to come.
I'm going to say Chang is what, Putin?
Yes, it's very much, Russo-American in terms of its politics, but you could just copy and paste whole scenes in a movie made today and just take your pick. Is it about Russia, Ukraine? Is it about what's going on in the Middle East? The figure, is Gorkhan, is he Gorbachev? Or is he any number of assassinated leaders who was killed on the verge of a major peace attempt? So there is a timelessness to it, but mostly I actually do think that because he's not Reagan-esque, I think they made a very clear attempt to line up the politics of this movie with the politics of the 80s and 90s, where everyone has a one-to-one counterpart from the real world except for the Federation president. I think Meyer and crew, they made sure this is not Reagan because I think they did not want this to be a cowboy.
Yeah.
He is not a Tom Clancy president. He's not secretly ordering that SEAL Team 6, that Rainbow Six, that Jack Ryan off-books mission to do the thing that's too dangerous. You're right. He's Jimmy Carter-esque. So what does it say about 91? It's almost so clear in what it's trying to say. It's not even fun for us to try to reinterpret it. But what we can speculate, what is this president's legacy and approval numbers? Because that's how we end every episode.
I don't think it'll be too kindly to him. I think he comes out looking a little like a naive little punk.
Well, on one hand, he is the president who is overseeing this major peace initiative. On the other hand, member of his own military and administration and cabinet and are conspiring against him. And what's interesting is the way that Meyer chose to stage the climax is the president, after Kirk saves him, when he gets up, he says nothing else the rest of the scene. Even when everyone's clapping as Kirk and the interim chancellor have a little, heart-to-heart. The interim chancellor is talking about how this is the best way to honor her dad's memory.
Yeah.
And Kirk's like, this is what my son would have wanted. This is a way to honor my son. The president's just back there saying nothing. So I do think he's definitely not the center of this moment. He's not going to be the center of what happens next. I have to think, though, he's going to walk away relatively popular because, by and large, this is a historic moment. And it's hard for the average person to not want to credit the guy in the Oval Office.
I guess, but when the Federation Times comes out with their expose, with the minute-by-minute breakdown of what happened during these days, I don't think history will look too kindly to him. He'll look just as weak as what we've been talking about.
Well, I guess you could make the case that by agreeing to do a secret location, he actually made everything less safe.
We hope you'll be our guest here on Earth.
After recent events, you will understand if I say I prefer a neutral site. And in the interests of security, let us keep the location secret for now.
As you wish, Madam Chancellor.
The people of Earth are going to be annoyed. They're like, we still could have done it here, guys.
Yeah.
Like all the business lost.
Yeah, it's like the Super Bowl.
All the meals. I mean, come on. They placed orders. I mean, like they canceled it within like the cancellation period was passed, and those motherfuckers still probably didn't pay.
Yeah.
That's
Where
all I'm
would they
saying.
have held this? Okay, so it's your Earth several hundred years in the future. Where do you hold your Super Bowl / Peace Summit? If you want to, you need ample hotel space.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be like the beachfront town of Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. Oh, yes. Because that's... So one thing...
Global warming.
Presumably that's also been fixed in the future of Star Trek. What I always liked about Star Trek is that, as a kid, when you turn on sci-fi set in the future, most things are a future where blank has happened. A future where the Earth has been dominated by aliens and you have, it's like, it's V. It's, basically the World War II and concentration camps, but with aliens, or it's a Terminator franchise where the robots have risen. And what I always loved about Star Trek is it was just the future. Not a future if blank happened. No, it's just the future. And I kind of like the fact that there was a future that both made the case that, this is where we're going. And guess what, people? We're able to use science to solve all our problems, which I guess in the end is kind of what this movie says, what all Star Trek says about all times. And that is if you listen to the scientists, you can actually get shit done and solve the problems that are keeping you from finding, true health, happiness, and progress for the entire, not just human race, but the whole Federation. And I think that's what the president is going to be saying at his second inauguration speech, because this guy's, he's getting reelected.
Motherfucker, I'm not asking if you're interested. I'm the president of the United fucking States, man.
Yeah, approval ratings, though. Yeah, I'll be more gracious than you. I think that he's going to be high 60s. Where are you going? But you're going low.
Well, I'm going like low. I'm like going low 30s on this dude, and even lower when the expose comes out about what really went down on that day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been Fake Presidents.
Yes.
Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country.
I've been Ben Oren.
I've been Eric Buckman. Music by Mr. J6 himself, Johnny Sadoff.
Johnny Sadoff just celebrated a birthday. Artwork by Ann Hecker.
You can find us all over the interwebs, fake_presidents on most social media sites. Please leave us a review because that's the best way. No, that's the second best way to get to us. The best way is just to email us. fakepresidents@gmail.com. In fact, we want to do a mailbag this summer. Send us some mail. Point out our errors. We love to have our errors pointed out to us. We will correct them live on air because that's
unless you're wrong, then we'll correct you and call you out on air for like trying to be a Mr. Know-It-All right into the podcast. Be like, oh, you guys made a mistake. It's like, no, actually, we fucking didn't. We did our research, dude.
Mr. Yeah, we keep Wikipedia open during the podcast.
The whole time. We keep that tab open, yo.
Yeah. Join us again for our next episode, which we haven't picked yet. So if you have an idea,
send it in.
See ya.
Bye.
Something new for me.
Yes.
As I just got Invisaligns yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not used to talking in them yet.
Okay.
So it's kind of like talking with, I don't know, like a I was going to say something big and plastic in my mouth. I'll let you fill in the blank with your imagination.
Invisalign. I'm terrible at imagination, so I'm going to go with Invisalign.